This is lesson 49 of our A-level physics no-nonsense lessons. Just me and a pen and a whiteboard, and all the words I can spout. This one's all about on the road. What's this topic all about then? Well, it's an odd one. This is the reason why in the classroom I teach the previous topic, which was terminal speed. I teach that with driving simulators because it flows quite nicely on then into this on the road topic. I guess they didn't know where else to put it, so they've stuck it in the end of this. It's got a little bit to do with dynamics, I guess. This is all about stopping in a vehicle. This is a driving lesson. So we've got to have to define three important terms. We've got stopping distance. I'll do that one at the end. We've got thinking distance. And we've got braking distance. There we go. Stopping distance. Now this is covered in GCSE levels, so we should be able to get this done quite quickly. Thinking distance. That is the distance the vehicle travels. Distance vehicle travels during driver's reaction time. That's what it is. It's not that they're thinking. It's a bit of a misnomer that. We're not actually thinking, we're reacting. So you're driving along, a hazard appears in front of you, and there's a time between when the hazard first appears and when your foot hits the brake. And the time between the hazard appearing and your foot hitting the brake, we could call the thinking. The time would be called the thinking time or the reaction time. The distance we travel during that time is a thinking distance. What's the braking distance? Well, that's the distance the vehicle travels under the braking force, or we should say while the brakes are engaged until the vehicle stops. It assumes constant braking force, which isn't always the case. You can vary your braking force by pushing your foot harder on the pedals. But that's an assumption that's made when we calculate braking distance. And what's stopping distance? Well, that's just the sum of the two. It's thinking distance plus braking distance. Plus braking distance. So we're going to make some assumptions here. So let's assume driver reaction time is constant. Now, of course, it's not, but let's assume it is. So if we assume the driver's reaction time is a constant, then what we find is that if I plot a graph of sorry, that was me coughing. If I plot a graph of the distance that we've traveled versus the speed of the vehicle, so let's put this as speed of vehicle, it will be a straight line. It will be a straight line. So let's put this as just distance for now. And let's have the green one as our thinking distance. It's just going to be a straight line. Let's just do it like that. This is thinking. Distance. And why is it a straight line? It's straight because the thinking distance is proportional to the speed. So straight because S is equal to ut, just like that. And therefore, S is proportional to U for constant T. So as long as the reaction time is constant, then the thinking distance is proportional to the speed of the vehicle, and we get a straight line. Right, well, what about the braking distance? Well, we're going to assume braking force is constant. And if we assume the braking force is constant, we get something that looks a bit like that. This is our braking distance. And of course, now we've got to ask the question, why is our braking distance doing that? Our thinking distance did that. So why is it this shape here? Well, remember we've got constant acceleration because we have constant force. That was what I said before, assume braking force is constant. So we're using our Suvat equations here. And we can say that v squared is equal to u squared plus 2as, just like that. V will equal 0. That's the final equation, the final speed will be 0. So we can say that u squared is going to be equal to minus 2as. And because a is constant, that means that u squared is proportional to s, or we could just say that s is proportional to u squared. You're going to say, where's the minus gone? Well, distance is a scalar, so it doesn't really matter that it's a minus, it's still proportional. So the displacement is proportional to u squared. That's a quadratic. Displacement, or distance, because we're using scalars, is proportional to u squared. Is going to give us that quadratic curve. Now, we could answer it in terms of the dynamics and say that the work done is equal to the force multiplied by the displacement. And because it's a constant force, that means the work done is proportional to the displacement. And we could say that the work done is equal to half mv squared, the total energy that the car had before it's, so it should be u then, shouldn't it? U squared, the total kinetic energy of the body before it started braking. And so you can see that u squared is proportional to s. So we can use this sort of argument instead, if we prefer, to look at the kinetic energy. It increases with the square of the speed. That's a GCSE equation. We haven't actually covered that in A-level yet, I don't think, but there we go. So what is the braking distance going to be? What's the stopping distance going to be doing? Well, it's going to be the sum of these two. So this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, and I wish I had a ruler or something with me, but I'll do my best. We're going to end up that much bit, I can't quite fit it, like this. So it's that plus that, which should end up bringing me to about there-ish. And that plus that should end up bringing me to about there-ish, and that plus that should bring me to about there-ish. Oh, no, to about there-ish, and that plus that should bring me to about there-ish. I'm just putting these dots to help me. I will get rid of the dots in a second. Right, let's erase these lines. So I'm just adding the values of these two curves to... yes, got it. I'm adding the values of these two curves together. That's all I'm doing, and I end up with something that's much steeper, and I'm going to do my best to draw this line, which is completely missing the points, but never mind. So that's thinking distance, that's stopping distance, which we already know is the sum of these two, if the reaction time is constant and if the braking force is constant. That should probably go a bit steeper than that. So rather than even trying it, I'm just going to freehand it, and it won't be right, but hopefully it'll be better. So we're going to go steeper, 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 steep, and it goes off like that. It's the sum of the two. Right, okay. So the only thing we need to talk about now is what causes changes in braking distance and what causes changes in thinking distance. And we do have to be quite fussy with this. We've already talked about speed. Let's do it as a Venn diagram. We've already talked about speed, and that will cause changes in both. So let's do something like this. There we go. And thinking distance was in green, wasn't it? So let's put that on the left. Thinking distance. Oh, that's still on the circular tool. Thinking distance. And on the right, in blue, we're going to have braking distance. Okay, let's start filling in the gaps. So we know something that affects both of them is speed. We've already seen that. Scroll, draw my underline there. So let's put that in the middle. Speed affects them both. What can affect the braking distance? Well, if the braking force matters, then the condition of the brakes, the condition of the road, the condition of the tyres, is the road wet? That would increase braking distance. Are the tyres new, expensive tyres with good grip? That's going to reduce the braking distance. The brakes brand new and just being serviced, that's going to reduce the braking distance, whereas old rusted conked out brakes is going to increase it. If you're asked what will reduce braking distance, just saying condition of brakes isn't good enough. If you're saying what will increase braking distance, just saying weather is definitely not good enough. Absolutely not. Fog does not affect braking distance. So saying weather is not good enough. In fact, I'm going to have to put this next to it. Don't say weather. That's waiter. I can't even spell it. Don't say weather. Fog. That's weather, isn't it? Right, so what's going to affect thinking distance? That's things that affect reaction time. So we're going to have intoxication by alcohol, or any sort of drugs, that sort of thing. Distractions, tiredness, age. Age will affect it as well. Yeah, that's probably all I need to say about that. So be very careful which part of the Venn diagram these are in. That's all I'll say about that. Now, modern cars don't have constant friction, constant force from the brakes. Modern cars don't do that. They have ABS, which can do some clever things. It can adjust the braking force on each tyre, or on each wheel, to stop you skidding, which is very clever, amongst other things. So if you've got a more modern car, then that's this graph won't necessarily be true. And that's one of the reasons that people argue, saying that speed limits can be increased nationally, is because cars are better than they were when the speed limits were designed. However, I think drivers have got worse, actually, so I'm not sure I'd agree with that, with the judgment that we can reduce speed limits. So let's just do this. Move it down to here so it's a bit more spaced out. We do also have to be careful of when we're applying the brakes. If we don't have ABS, we don't want to lock the brakes. So what do I mean by that? Well, you've got the brake pad and the brake disc, which have big areas in contact with each other, which increases that force of friction, transferring energy from the kinetic energy store of the vehicle into the thermal energy store of the brake pads and the brake discs. And that's what slows you down. If, however, the brakes lock, then you are using the friction between the tyres and the road, and actually the contact area there is less, so that's less friction. You lose control, but also you brake less effectively. You can't steer and things while your brakes are locked. So yeah, you don't want your brakes to lock. You've got to push the brake hard enough, but then if you feel you start to skid, you actually take your foot off the brake a little bit and then pop it back on. Kinetic friction is which is the friction between, or sometimes it's called dynamic friction, it's the friction between two surfaces that are in contact with each other, is always going to be less than static friction, than the maximum static friction. So if your two objects, if the brakes lock, then all of a sudden that's it. They're locked. The kinetic friction now can't be high enough. The static friction is higher, and it's going to stop the wheels from spinning. Your wheels then lock and you skid out. You lose control. Anyway, I'm not going to teach you how to drive. I think that's probably enough for this lesson. It doesn't need a lot of work on it. So that is all about braking distances, thinking distances, and stopping distances, given the rather cryptic title in these notes as On the Road. And the next lesson, so just scroll to the right page, which is the last bit of dynamics before we start looking at momentum, is about safety. It's about what cars do or can do to keep you safe if there is a collision, which is a nice way into momentum. So I hope you'll join me then. Bye-bye.